Hey guys, Kevin here, Lazy Yellow. The Rane 72 has just launched and all the DJs are dying to know how it fares against the DJM S9. So let's dive right into it. First things first, the thing that everyone is talking about is the touchscreen. You've got full RGB waveforms, very responsive needle search, library view, both with an enhanced view and a condensed view, an effects panel, very similar to the classic 909, giving you in-depth control of 2 channels of hardware flex effects and Serato effects, heavy-duty illuminated effects paddles, and touch effects. The flex effects are also post-fader, although at this moment in time the Serato effects are only pre-fader, but that could be updated with a firmware update down the line. You can also customize your effects library and individual settings, including stacked effects, giving you endless possibilities of different effects and layered effects. Next, onto the pads, full RGB MPC style pads, independent pad pages unlike the S9, and layered pads without having to use shift combos, which is a great improvement from the S9. A quick overview of the different pages. You've got your standard hot cues, auto loop, rolls, sampler, slicer, pitch play, manual looping, pad effects, and fader effects. The fader effects page will get a lot of people talking because it mimics crab style scratching without the crossfader. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool effect that you can add to your repertoire during your sets, but obviously it's not there to replace real scratching. Another cool feature is the built-in internal transport controls, just in case anything happens to your decks in the club, where you've got hot cues, pitch bend, and full internal control. Next, onto the physical side of things, 72 is obviously a lot deeper, it's also a lot heavier, and it's full metal construction. You've also got the new Mag 3 tension adjustable crossfader, which is also replicated on the channel faders. The feel of a crossfader is extremely subjective, and if I was to describe the Mag 3, I'd say it's a cross between your typical Rane 62 type fader and the old 707-909 type, because it does have a bit of a click and it has a bit of a weight to it. One thing I did find slightly annoying was trying to get the tension adjustment exactly the same on both channel faders. This was pretty fiddly because all you've got is 2 screws. But the Rane does have a very neat cut-in adjustment, giving you complete customization of your crossfader. The S9, on the other hand, doesn't have tension adjust on the channels, but it's never been a problem in the 2 years that I've had the S9 since it came out. There's obviously a lot more to go through on the 72, but now that we've done a quick overview, I'd like to compare some of the finer details between the S9 and the 72 from my perspective. Firstly, effects paddles. The S9 has obviously taken cues from the RMX. You've got plastic paddles which are spring-loaded with a lock. The Rane, on the other hand, has very nice weighted metal paddles, again with a lock and a spring. These can be rotated to suit your style of DJing, a bit like on the 57. The high and low pass filters are okay. You can adjust the resonance, which you can also do on the S9. But I do prefer the feel of the chunkier metal knobs on the S9. The EQs are fairly similar, although I was slightly disappointed that the 72 had plastic pots instead of metal. Although I'm sure in the long run they'll be completely fine. The layout of the EQ on the S9 is a bit more intuitive, whereas on the 72, I think there could have been a better delineation between the filters, the EQ, and the trim. Whilst we're on the subject of layout and controls, one thing I found slightly annoying was the touch-sensitive library knobs. This is very similar to the Control Z2, and some people will like it. Personally, not a big fan, and if I could switch it off, that would be ideal. At first, I did find the 72 slightly cluttered, with the mic and the session controls on the top face. On the S9, these are all out of the way and it's slightly cleaner. Personally, I've never been a great fan of fader cues, as they can bleed over time, so the button cues on the 72 were very welcome. And for those that do like it, you've also got a split cue. With regards to the hardware effects, Pioneer wins hands down, in my opinion. I'm sprung, down, she got me. I'm The echo out on the S9 just has a much nicer tail and build, and the post fader tails have a much nicer decay. In terms of pads, the MPC pads do have a bit more give to them, and the S9 pads are slightly harder. Another noticeable difference is the illumination of the pads. In quite a bright environment, it can be quite hard to differentiate the pad colours on the 72, whereas on the S9 this wasn't as much of a problem. Everyone will have a different workflow, and the layered effects on the 72 is a very nice touch, giving you lots of options for creativity. However, I did miss the simplicity of the S9 effects, especially as the parameters didn't revolve around a touchscreen. On the 72, the parameters are a mix of touch and scroll control, but a slight frustration I found was in the in-depth effects page, where in order to select a parameter, it would often jump to where you were touching. Whilst you might not do this in a live situation, it would be nice to be able to disable this. The layout of controls on the S9 is very intuitive. The loops, the fader spacing, and the effects. The 72 has obviously got to accommodate the additional controls and the screen, and overall it does a pretty good job. The screen itself is a useful tool, although in some instances I did find it slightly distracting because there was a slight lag between the mixer and the screen. However, the track position and the cues is quite useful information, although it wasn't exactly something I missed when I went back to my S9. I did find a slight latency with the waveforms in the mixer, but this will probably get fixed with firmware updates and by adjusting your buffer size on your laptop. Overall, the 72 is a beast of a mixer with endless customization, excellent build quality, and endless features. The S9, on the other hand, is much simpler in comparison, and whilst it's not perfect, the simplicity of the effects and intuitive layout has made it a firm favourite for DJs around the world. Whether the 72 will steal that crown is yet to be seen. The retail of the 72 in the UK is £1,700, whereas the S9 is £1,400. For an extra £300, you get more control, customization, and the screen. But whether or not those features add value to you as a DJ will vary from person to person. Personally, I find it hard to give up the simplicity of the S9. The Mag Veil fader feels a lot nicer to me than the Mag 3, and whilst the screen is a great innovation, I did find it slightly distracting, and I actually prefer DJing without the waveform view on the mixer itself. Due to the size of the 72, a lot of cases, bags and accessories will need updating, so if you do jump on the 72, you might need to wait a bit for the market to catch up. The S9 has been a firm favourite for a lot of DJs. The Rane has been hyped for over a year and is only just starting to trickle through to the market. It's a great piece of kit, but it won't suit everyone. If you like Rane mixers and you want the latest tech, buy it. Otherwise, there's nothing wrong with the S9. You get the pioneer feel, great effects, and instant usability straight out of the box. The Rane takes a bit of tweaking, and if you like customizing every last detail, then the Rane is ideal. Overall, the Rane 72 is an innovative and great piece of kit, especially with that touchscreen. However, the DJM S9 still more than holds its own with its simple to use layout, amazing effects, and that Mag Veil crossfader. But that's just my take. Go check it out for yourself in the shops and make your own mind up. Either way, you can't lose with either mixer. Enjoy. Peace. LAZYELLOW.